You think you started a record label, but without an LLC, you didn't start a business. You actually started a liability. And every song you release, every artist you sign, and every dollar you make is tied directly to you. Your name, your assets, your future. And one wrong move and the whole thing can completely collapse. This ain't about red tape. This is about protection, power, and playing the game the right way before the game plays you. So if you've ever thought that the government and the banks want you to fail, then you're probably right? They don't benefit from everybody succeeding. They want to keep you in debt and in need. And the truth is, they need a few people to succeed. It's just that if they taught everyone how to succeed, then there would be no need for them. So the difference is that I actually care about your success and truly want to see you live the musical life of your dreams. So that's why today's video is important. In this episode, I'm going to help you understand why you need to be in the group of people who succeed, whether you're new or already seasoned, and why an LLC structure is for everyone who wants to make over $14,000 a year in this business. An LLC will open up so many opportunities for you to win. You just need to understand what it's going to do for you in the music business. Because right now, I can sense that you probably don't. And that's probably why you clicked on this video. But I'm gonna help you out with that, okay? So don't fret, just be chill. We're gonna get through this whole thing together. Over the past 9 years, I've come to the conclusion that every artist, producer, writer, engineer, video director, and graphic designer are all independent contractors. However, most still look to the majors as employers instead of business partners, believe it or not. And this is what power can do. But when I started realizing that every entity who disperses royalties to music creators asks for a W-9, it hit me that you can either do this yourself or as a music business owner. But the question is, why would you operate as yourself when you could be a business? And if I operate as a person, I have to accept every single liability. But if I operate as a business, it gets to accept the liability, hence the liability company or the LLC. You need to understand personal protection, asset protection and leverage, and monetary protection and leverage so you totally get why this is necessary. So let's jump in. Let's start with personal protection first. Most artists will create music and distribute it quickly because of instant gratification from the love of the people and a desire to get money without any regard or concern about how to proceed properly with these distributors that you're signing up for. You're entering into a contract with the distributor yourself, and that is risky, but an LLC reduces that risk significantly. The real reason that you're operating this way is because you don't understand the risk that you brought upon yourself. You also don't realize that the more money you make, the more problems you will have very soon. So we have to fix this for your personal protection. We do. When I was producing records for Baby Rose early, we put out an album that had tons of samples on it. Independently, with no fan base, we generated about $1,500 very quickly, right? We got a takedown notice from TuneCore and they shut down our account and took our money. We did it again with United Masters. We generated about the same amount of money. And then boom, like clockwork, they took our album down and they took the money. And even though we didn't have a company for distribution, the risk was still on us. I had asked myself then, what would have happened if we would have gotten sued for damages? Now, at the time, I didn't know, but I just knew what I had to do to make the distribution look like amateurs did it, right? And I can talk about that in another video. But when you operate as yourself, you can't sign an artist to you. You are liable for the samples and the infringements. Even if you lease to be, you're liable for the interpolations, meaning if you replayed songs that's not technically covers. And if you don't show up for a performance that a club booked you for or a promoter did, and if they paid half, it's even worse. All of this plus more, all of this liability is on you. And once you create the LLC and start doing business with it, all the liabilities are directed to the business and away from you. Talk about insurance, right? While there are multiple forms of it, this is the first level of insurance, and we'll talk about 2 more forms of insurance an LLC can create for you in a second. I'll get to that. I used to believe I could wing it until I got my first check and it would all work itself out. But sometimes that doesn't happen until you have to go through the fire like I did with this content business that I'm talking to you on right now. The LLC is not complicated to create. You just need to know what to do with it and how to create and use it properly for the music industry. And now that you understand personal protection, let's talk about protecting the assets, which is the music. So asset protection and leverage are things that people just let freely fly and don't care much about. But as an artist or self-run label owner, we think that if we don't sample anything, we have nothing to worry about, except now the music is at risk of our personal mishaps in addition to that. And if we don't protect or secure our musical assets in the business, we can't necessarily leverage them for more cash. You know what I mean? We all want to keep life simple with less paperwork. And that's how you got in this situation in the first place. You also don't know what you don't know. But as you grow, everything requires paperwork and more of it. And you'll actually be happy to do it when you start to see the money potential come along with it. So if you don't protect the musical assets, your personal mishaps can cause your musical assets to be used as a settlement for a debt or legal conflict, in addition to you being pulled into the chaos of something happening from the music side, as we talked about earlier. We can't leverage the assets for cash in the business, say from a publishing company, investors, or a larger distributor, if there is no proven legal ownership in a company for the musical assets. So now we've just cut our growth. Like, we cut everything out. And I learned this when Baby Rose signed her deal with her original label, Human Resources. I was pushing for the label to buy out the sample-based album that we kept getting takedowns from, so we could release it properly and she could settle some debts, and mainly so I could get paid. However, the management didn't see it as a good idea until after they parted ways with the label. So it was a loss for me, but I knew that leveraging my musical assets in this way was possible due to my original thoughts during the TuneCore takedown days and the months of that. The way you're going to do this is you're going to copyright your musical assets, the sound recordings and your percentage of the musical works, i.e. the songs, and then stash them into the LLC. Now the music is protected and the liabilities are removed from you. And the music is also protected from your personal mishaps. Once you do this, you'll naturally see the power you have in what you own, because your musical assets are now known to the government as you being the original creator. And they have insured your composition with a $150,000 statutory damage insurance policy to be pursued by you, the defendant, if any infringements arise against your protected works. We can also do deals properly with those investors, distributors, publishers, and labels as business partners instead of employees. And believe it or not, some artists somehow still sign themselves directly to the majors. I don't really know why they do this. You don't do that. You should never do that. You might think this process is complicated, but it's not. LLC creation is simple and copyright registration is simple. Both take about 10 minutes to complete and 3 minutes for the copyright if you have all the information, i.e. the split sheets and stuff like that. So far, we've covered your personal protection, your asset protection, and asset leverage, but now we got to dig into monetary protection and leverage. However, if you need help with starting this process, I've got every step completely laid out from A to Z with my funding partners in my 60-day record label system beneath this video. Grab it today to get started so you won't screw yourself in a few months. Now, monetary protection and leverage. Let's talk about it. The worst thing you can do with the proceeds of your music money is to commingle it with your personal funds, especially when you've made a lot of money. I've done this myself at tax time, and it's not fun to detangle bank statements in a time crunch. It really ain't. Most artists get stuck at this point when they don't open a business bank account and establish a relationship with their local bank. This bank is going to give you access to capital immediately and later on as you grow. When I started this channel, this happened to me. I opened a business bank account, and after that tax season, then I started to operate out of it. I would later get a business credit card to protect the money in my bank account from debit card and credit card scammers, right? My bank account is as old school as you can get. It's not hooked up to anything, and I write checks. I use my credit card for protection, rewards, and funds, which was the immediate capital the bank gave me. You see what I'm saying? So it's levels to this game. I explain this system to my clients on how to get the money for as cheap as possible to scale their business. And they did it on cash and credit cards. Now, it's totally possible to do. You just have to hustle and be quick on your feet. This artist became known as Kennedy Ryan, who is a buzzing indie singer-songwriter from Atlanta, Georgia. I also took that account and separated it into different accounts using a cash flow analysis process to separate my profit, my taxes, my operating expenses, and my payroll. And this allowed me to get more leverage from my bank that I will mention in a second. However, get down to your local bank after you created your LLC and tell them you want an account with them. If you're ready to make some plays with your record company and you know for sure you're going to have some profitable returns, you can go for the business credit. But don't use it if you can't pay it back in 12 months, right? Because your label will go bust if you don't. Ask me how I know. Now, there is a rule to do that, but that is saved for the music money makers community. Now, once you do all this stuff, you will be in the game and people will wonder how you got up and running so fast. and it's because that you got the 60-day record label system. I used to believe it was impossible to get funding from a bank like Russ talked about on the Breakfast Club a little while back, until I did it with my bank on a line of credit. It was incredible. I got money for as cheap as I could get it. Way more than a credit card, and payments are super affordable on that sucker. Understanding this, I was able to secure affordable funding partners for you all as well inside of my 60-day record label course. And again, it's not hard. Once you start the process, you will begin to see the power. All you have to do is start, okay? So here's what you can do. Create the LLC, register the copyrights in your business name as the claimant, open the business bank account, and get the funding. The point of this is to truly understand a proper business structure that runs a record label. It will take you some time, but I can get it down to 60 days flat or less, right? You can grab a copy of the 60-day record label system beneath this video today to get it done ASAP, or you can take your time running into walls and messing things up along the way like I did until I figured out the flawless way to get it done. So flawless that I never gotten a refund request for this product ever because it didn't work. If you're serious about making this happen, click below and let's get started. This system works and you don't have to have the knowledge to do it because I'll take care of all of that. All you need is your time. When you pair it with the system, you will enhance your skills in this game tenfold and end up way ahead of many in this game. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to start with what you got and watch how far that can actually take you. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, the risk of it all will begin to pile up. And the first thing to hit you hard will be the taxes. The second thing will be loss leverage. And then it will stockpile from there. Arguments with creatives, agreements that won't push through because they want to do business with the business, right? The invisible opportunity loss will begin to eat away at you because you won't know why it's happening. You just won't. Then you think the industry just doesn't buy with you when in reality, you're not playing the game the right way. The game was set up to be played by its rules, and those rules can be bent if you generate enough power in the game. Remember, government wants you to succeed, but they just aren't going to tell you how. You have to find the rules to the game from the sage within the game. That's the key. If you should create an LLC or not, because maybe you heard too much or you just don't have enough information, you should now have enough to make the ultimate successful choice of creating one to become the self-sustaining artist you've always wanted to become. Music money makers, if you make music, you should always make money. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com, jump into the 60-day record label beneath this video, join the all new Music Money Makers community, grab the free stuff, watch this next video coming up right here, and I'll see you next time. Peace.